Welcome, 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 welcome. Hello, 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 hello. I'm your girl Ashley, aka the widow. And with me is the one and only, the beautiful Mrs. Naturally Geeky from, Naturally Geeky, right? So hi, how are you doing today, Naturally
I'm
Geeky?
doing good. I'm ready to talk about this movie. But yes, I'm
So
doing
yeah,
good.
so we watched Soul, right? And we're going to talk about it and tell you this is the spoiler review here. We have a spoiler free review as well. So if you've not seen the film and you just kind of want to know our thoughts and our opinions, check out that review because we don't want to be in the business of spoiling anything for anyone. Do we, Naturally Geeky?
Correct, correct. No spoilers.
Yes. And of course, we are Jody's Angels too, as well, right? We
Yeah,
are Jody's Angels. And like I said, it's not easy and it's not for everyone, but we are definitely two of Jody's Angels. But first of all, yes, so we know that we've all kind of talked about how Disney Plus, basically what they have, they're starving for content, right?
yeah,
Um, and we had Mando, and we had a bunch of like little high school musical, like little bitty things. This still is a family film that I feel like, oh, finally something to get excited about, right? Other than the Mandalorian. And so it's kind of like, okay, Disney Plus, I see you. Did Disney Plus win the streaming war on Christmas Day? Time will tell. Probably the numbers are probably better for Wonder Woman, but which film is getting better praise? I don't know. For me, it's Soul, right? But that's just my opinion. We're not going to talk about Wonder Woman here. We're going to talk about Soul, but that's the only point is that we got these both of these films that were meant for the theaters on two of the newest streaming platforms, that they're trying to compete and go head to head with Netflix, and I feel like both of them did a pretty good job on Christmas
I
Day,
agree.
right?
I agree. I feel like it brought
You
my
know,
attention back to Disney Plus. I had the Mandalorian, but it really brought me back to it. So I think they did. They picked up some ground in this race. So yeah.
yeah, I agree. So Soul tells us the story of me. I wish I had the name right in front of me. Joe, what's Joe's last name? Do you remember, Natural Geeky?
The
I
Garden.
did not pull it, but no.
I believe it's
Joe,
Joe.
we know he's Joe.
I think it's Joe Garden.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, that is it. It is. Thank you for that. Joe is we open and we see Joe, right? You know, is a band teacher, and the band isn't playing very well. You could tell he's in his frustrations that a lot of them are not connected with music like he is. I mean, we do have the one student who is a great musician, but even when he's breaking down his story and talking about how he was a child and how when he first experienced this music, he knew that this was for him. And then he looks at it and he says, "Don't you understand it?" And she's like, "I'm a kid." Like I thought that moment was so cute
It
because he was trying to connect with her on a whole other level, and she's like, "No, dog, like
miss
I
me.
feel you, but I've not lived a full ideals life, a full life as you did, right?" So I thought that was a cute moment. Do you kind of want to bring up anything after that or just speak on that right there?
Yeah, I mean the opening like sequence and how I liked when they were doing the little Disney thing. You could hear like the
Yeah.
band already, and I was like, "What is that?" And I was like, and it really got my attention. We see the life that Joe's living, and it's just like you can already tell he's just like even thinking to himself, "Is this? Am I supposed to be here? Is this really my life?" And
Yeah,
I really I thought it was funny too when she had met that when she responded like I'm 12 too, like I'm 12, like I'm not gonna
yeah,
be what you're talking about. But yeah,
yeah,
I
like,
really thought that was funny, and it really it
yeah,
got us to see where Joe was at in his life, and even though it was a small scene, like you really gotta take away from it who Joe was, because how he was kind of like doing the piano for them, and kind of was in his groove, and it's just that scene I think was important. I like how they did that.
yes, I agree, and I think we get the biggest telltale moment. I mean, we could see it on his face. We could hear it in his voice that he was not happy in this moment. But then we actually, get them telling us basically in the next scene right after a lot of people would be like happy that they get tenure, right? To be a teacher, to have all these benefits and all these things going on. And Joe's like, miss me with that. Like you could
Like,
see it in his face. He's like, oh, okay,
mm,
okay. You know, and do you kind of want to talk about like the interaction with his mother? Because I know that you brought up a point when we were just kind of discussing, and I kind of want you to like talk about how you felt when we get to his interaction with his mother, who apparently is a seamstress. She owns a tailoring shop, and how he kind of like comes to her and talks about how he got this job and just her response to that.
yeah, we see how he's coming back from hearing the news that he's actually been made, full-time teacher, which again, it should be something we'd be, happy about, but because the circumstances that he's in and how he wants to truly live his life, he's not really happy. And he goes to see his mom, and you can see how most of us, when we approach our parents, and it's kind of like not a conversation we want to have, and how they can kind of like bring us down. But I was up in the air with this conversation because I believe she kind of like made him feel like his dreams weren't really important, that he just really need to focus on getting a job, and that's all he should be worrying about. And I liked it, and I didn't like it because I feel like when there was a lot of realism for interactions with us being African American and things like that, but I feel like it was a lot of strain. I feel like sometimes the representation of that character, I didn't feel like it matched, but I feel like it was needed in this particular story because of the story. So yeah.
Yes, I agree. But I feel like sometimes I agree with the point that you're making, that us as Black women, we're, represented as dream killers and,
Yeah.
just these harsh, like, get that job, make that money type thing. But it did make sense for the story, right? Because he needed that person to be like, that's like kind of pushing him in a different direction, like you need this job, you need to give up on this dream and just focus on, being a teacher. Being a teacher is a great goal. There's nothing wrong with being a teacher. But for
Yeah.
Joe, being a teacher was not his passion, and it wasn't his dream to teach children and to give them that outlet. And you can kind of see maybe that's why the band was horrible, because he's not great at teaching. Possibly,
Yeah.
right?
That might be the real thing.
Maybe, right? He's not a good
Yeah.
teacher. And so then we, after, he's walks out of his mother's seamstress shop, he runs into one of his former students, right? And then this is the opportunity of a lifetime, right? Gigi, you kind of want to lead us into that part right there, kind of what goes on in that moment?
Well, basically, he runs into one of his former students, and he basically has good news that a band that he's in for this jazz musician is actually looking for somebody, and they want him. And Joe is ecstatic, like he just can't believe it. And so this is what he's been waiting for. So this is what Joe has aspired to be given this opportunity to play with these great musicians. And this is the point in the movie where you feel like he's made it. He's kind of like he's got to the part where he wants to be. And it was good to see, because it was kind of like you see how his whole demeanor changed from in the beginning of the movie to now. It was just like, oh, okay, like he perked up real quick. But yeah. So, and then we see how.
And you can feel that his life for music, like he loves this so much, right? We see him in this sad state in the beginning, and you see him come to like, oh, I got this chance, I got this shot, right? I got this moment. And he goes into this club and he sees, this magnificent, high profile jazz musician. And, she second guessed him at first. Oh, we're going to band teachers. That's what we're doing. And he gets on that piano and he plays for his life in that moment, doesn't he? And you can feel, it's coming, those obstacles are coming in his way very soon. Just from the trailer,
Yeah.
we see him, give a great audition. He gets the job. She's like, you got a suit? Get a suit. Be back here, blah, blah, blah. And he's just like on cloud nine, right? And he's just walking down the street. He's like basically avoiding death at every like turn, right? Like the things are falling and he's dodging it. And then the next thing we see him, he's on the phone. Like that would probably be my life if I'm in a big city. And he walks right by, and then he goes, shoot, right down, right, doesn't he? Into the sewer. And then we see the transition into the soul realm. And to me, it was cool to see that, right? Because then
Yeah.
you just see this black backdrop, right? The animation to me, I did have a few things that I didn't really care for, but overall, that moment when you see him drop down and you see that, the screen go black and you see
Yep.
him in this little blue body, I'm like, oh, this is cool, right? Do you kind of want to talk about like the great beyond, like, what you thought about it, just from your first reaction there?
I liked it. Like you said, there was some parts where there were good animation, but I liked this part and how they kind of changed how the animation was brought to life. And I feel like his body, when it turned to the soul, it looked just like him with the little glasses and the little hat. And I I really liked how they made the great beyond, where it was like an escalator and they were going up and the souls were going up and they just seen this like bright light, and it kind of like was showing us as representation that basically they're almost there, they're almost at the part where they're dying, and Joe is basically sitting there and going up in this escalator, and just like him, I have questions like all those other souls were going up there. They just along for the ride. And I think, but Joe's like, excuse me, what's going on? Excuse
Mm-hmm.
me? Like,
Yeah.
to see him, he's like, no, it's not my time. Like, he's still remembering, like, I'm at the pivotal part of my life and I'm about to be at the spot I want. And I don't want to go up there. I'm not going to the great beyond. And I like that, how he was like, no, I'm not having it. He goes down that escalator and he's not having
Yes, he does.
it. But I
Yes,
love
he does. And like, look at I love this picture. Yeah, I love this picture a lot. This one right here. Like, I wish I could blow the image up right now, and I can't. This is where I found it. I just found it real quick. I meant to have images pulled up for us to look at, just because the film is amazing. Like, when you see these steps and like all of this right here, I'm like, that's great, and then you see that, like that's the way to heaven, right? And to me, it's great, for me anyway, just that moment, right, is pure amazing, there when we get to see that. And then we're going to move along in his realization, right, where he realizes, oh shoot, I'm not dead, I'm not ready to go, I'm not ready to give up on my life, right? Because he knows that he has this shot and this opportunity, right? So he's frantic and he dashes off, he goes the opposite direction, and then kind of what happens next, Geeky,
basically he's no longer in the what they call the great beyond, but he's kind of found like a loophole to where he's gone to the part where it's the great, I think they called it before or something like
the
that.
great before, yes, he's in the great before, yes,
great before, and it's kind of like a pool of people that their souls are there before they actually go to their bodies, and we see how we meet, I think they called them Terrys, and these are people that organize and kind of shape.
Jerry.
Because
Terry's the one who does the count. Remember, Terry does the count, okay. And Terry's the one that realizes the soul's missing from the great beyond.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's Terry and Jerry. Yeah.
Terry,
go ahead. I'm sorry. I just wanted to.
Oh yeah, of course. But yeah, I liked how they organized that. But basically, he's basically put into the world of the great before, and we see how people's lives and souls are put into their body before they get there, and how they kind of get their personalities and things like that. And he's just basically running around, and he's not creating chaos, but he's throwing everything off from what is supposed to be in continuous formation and kind of like everything adding up, but he's kind of throwing it off. And so I liked how they explained it and kind of brought that to our attention. I liked how they explained people getting their personalities, how they learn things and things like that. But I enjoyed that. I like that part.
Yes. And 22, right? 22 is like had so many mentors, right? She doesn't have any desire, or she doesn't find her spark. And in order to get your earth pass, right, you got to find that spark within yourself, right? And 22 is content living in the great before. She's scared to live a life. Nothing really excites her or grabs her attention, right? She's had these wonderful mentors. What was Gandhi, Mother Teresa, just to name a
Yeah.
few of the people that have been her mentor. And she just is not having any of it, right? Kind of want to talk about like that part in their relationship, because you can bring up the whole the line that he brings up, because the things that we were talking about in the discussion there.
Yeah, so he's basically in the great before, and somehow he gets to where he's a mentor, and the mentors are basically showing 22 how try to get her to earth, but she kind of has to find what her passion or her things that are going to make her tick. And I like the interaction initially from them, but it was kind of like it was weird because we had
Mm-hmm.
to get used to 22. We had to get used to her personality and things like that because it was a little weird because she was kind of like a skeptic, always asking questions, always wanted to do this, didn't want to be like everybody else, and it was just like okay, let's get used to this character. But yeah, the funny part that I liked is when he said, "Why do you sound like a middle-aged white woman?" And I just that almost fell out the floor because I was like, "That's exactly how I was thinking." I'm like, "Why does this little soul have this grown woman's voice?" And
This grown.
and a lot of the comedy in there is like that. It's like out of nowhere, and you're like, "Oh wait, you got to catch it too sometime?" Because I'd be like, "Did they really just say that?" Well, yeah,
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like with the two of them, like I feel like if Jamie would have been paired with someone else, it could have possibly worked. But I feel like the way that Tina Fey went about, going after the role, kind of being this like annoying, voice of this, like you 40, middle aged woman, and here is, Jamie Foxx, his character Joe, who is a little bit more passive, but he also kind of like gives it to her, doesn't he? He's like, "Why do you talk like that? Like, why are you not excited for life?" And he gives you all of that in that moment. And when he's excited for life, right? Even though his life has not gone the way that he would have wanted it to, right? And like I said, when we meet him, to at that point where he's going to mentor. 22, they have this thing where he goes into what would have been his life, but obviously they think he's Bjorn, the doctor here. And so the aspects that come up are not his life, at first. And he's like, he tells me, "This is not my life," right?
right.
And he asks her, "Is there a way to change that?" He does. And then his life is projected in front of him, right?
Yeah.
And life is not cracked up what all what he thought it was going to be, right? But even in that moment when he sees these moments of his failure, right, when he sees the moments where he's not living the way he wants to, for him life still rips, right? And life rips, right? I feel like that's the message here. And then I felt like that was that moment when you realize, things aren't necessarily the way you think they are, and
Yeah.
you see him in that moment, and regardless, he's still not willing to give up, because he feels like this moment coming up is his moment to really live, you know what I'm saying? And I enjoyed it. I almost cried there. The only thing, like when 22, she makes a little snarky comment, I mean, I guess for her character it made sense. For that moment, it brought me out of the moment. I feel like if we could have sat there in that moment a little bit longer, I probably would have shed a few tears, you know what I'm saying? Because we all had moments in life where we feel, that maybe our life is not where we want it to be, right?
Yeah.
We're still happy to have that life, right? And I feel like that was a moment for 22 to see that, right? That regardless of what Joe's going through, Joe's happy. to have that life and to always try to, maybe he's failed 100 times, but it only takes that one time to succeed in life, right? And then you're there, you're in. That's how I took it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it really motivated him even more to kind of get back to his body, because he's like, that might have been what my life was, but I can change it. And I think that's what kind of drove him even more to be like, you know what, I'm gonna keep pushing forward. And like you said, it could have showed 22, like, look at him, look at his drive, look how he's been through or not been through, and how he's trying to get through it. So yeah.
Yes, exactly. I agree. I thought that it was, a great point here in the film. And then when we kind of go on, and then he tries to take her, because he tells her, if she gets this earth pass, she'll give it to him, right? And like he's like, oh, give it to me. And like in that moment, he's trying to like take these things from, and it doesn't work. He was like, in order, the only pass, like I said, is the earth pass, which is transferable. Like, she could give it to him, but she doesn't have an earth pass at the moment, right? Because she hasn't unleashed her spark, right?
Mhm.
So then they go to the Hall of Everything, and she experiences all these things, and it's yeah, she's just not feeling it, right? Not feeling it all. And at the same time, Terry, the soul, like, the accountant who tracks all the souls, is realized, oh, there's somebody missing here. And she was trying to find where did this soul go, right? So that's like the sub thing. They're trying to find him, of course, or whatever in that moment. And kind of you want to talk about like all that, like how they're frantic to find him, kind of their mission as we see it, going forth right there, because then we'll kind of get into the wrap up here next.
Okay, so yeah, basically they with the world, I mean, it has to be some type of order. So if somebody is not where they're supposed to be, it's gonna cause chaos. And
Yeah.
Terry, which is, the one that counts everything, has found that somebody's missing. So that's why he's actually going in and out of the different beyonds and actually the world trying to find it. And he finds out that the person that is missing or is not accounted for is Joe. So then we see that it kind of uh, comes for where he's actually going from this sexual being to actually in the world, not trying to be seen. And I like how they brought that, because it kind of was like you said, a sub kind of like plot. And I like how they brought it in, and it kind of like was like a chase, and they're trying to bring it down. But it was funny. But yeah. And
And I enjoyed 22 and his body. That was good, like that little swap there, and I feel like that helped 22 a lot, really understand what life was about, right?
yes, yes. And I feel like some of the good moments of the movie too were when they were actually in the weird bodies. When Joe was in the cat, and then she was in his body. I feel like when he was actually taught, like I think they were in the barbershop, and the cat was on his lap, and he was going around, and then they're just looking at him like. I felt like that was funny too. Like, just imagine.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like the heart of the movie, like we saw, there was so many different little spots that felt like it was part of the heart of the movie. But when you got to see them, like him be a cat, her be him, I feel like that was the heart of the film. You got to see 22 really see, like I said, what is life about, and then that's what initiated, her spark. Like when she realizes, when she's like, oh, speaking with his student, oh, you want to quit, right? I feel you, quit. And then she realizes, oh no, she doesn't want to quit. She might say these things, but that's not how she truly felt, right? We all have those moments of like self-doubt or self-loathing. And regardless, she didn't give up. And I feel like that was the turnaround moment for 22. So I felt like that was important for her to be, in that real world, because I felt like just her going through these scenarios, in the great before, she would have never gotten there. You see what I'm saying there?
Yeah, exactly. She would have got that. If she didn't meet Joe, we probably never would have seen her get back to, or the part where she found her spark, because I feel like Joe was meant to be there for a reason, and it was to help her but also help himself, and they kind of did a lot for each other in the end. And I like their chemistry towards the end. It really did come for full circle to what they started off for. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that part.
Yeah, and speaking of the end of the film, National Geeky, like I said, I appreciate you being here. So I want to go ahead and give what did you think about the ending of the film? If you want to talk about it, and then we'll both give our feelings about it. If you want to go ahead and give like kind of a little synopsis of what happens in those final moments.
So basically, somehow they get back into their original bodies, and 22 is gone back to, the great before, and Joe is able to, make it to the actual, performance he was supposed to. But in the end, we do find out that he's not satisfied. It's not the feeling that he originally thought that he was going to get. And it's not like it's a letdown, but he wasn't feeling as fulfilled as he thought it was. And I feel like it was important, because that happens to a lot of us. We kind of fool ourselves into, if we get to this point, this will change. But that might not be the reality. And in the end, he finds a way to get back to 22, and she's kind of in this depression mode, which I like how they use that representation of how people anxiety kind of being in these blocks, and like, in those black body, like sexual beings. And basically she finds her spark in the end. And at the end, we see how Joe has began back in his body, and he's just going to live life how he's supposed to. So the ending, I feel like, was inspiration, just to tell people, just live life. It might not be always every moment the best moment, but I mean, we're there. You're here and you're living, and that's important, because we could be, like you said, in the great beyond, not experiencing, but we're here on Earth experience, and that's the most important.
Yeah. And I think, like, kind of going back to the point that I've been there in my life, where you feel like if I just get this, if I just attain this, if I just complete this goal, that my life will be set, everything will be great. And sometimes it's just fleeting moments, right? You had that moment and it doesn't give you that relief or that satisfaction that you're looking for, right? And like you said, just living life and being in that moment and being present, and always just going out there and doing it and living it, because you know what? Tomorrow's never promised. I know that's kind of cliche. And like I say, life rips. This movie rips. Like I said, in Disney Plus, win in my book here. Naturally Geeky and I are going to give you our score now. For me, it's a B, right? I liked it. Like I said, just a few things I will say that might have been issues. It's very similar to Inside Out. It is, okay? Like some of the same tropes, I feel like it's not really original, but is it a good family, good feel movie? Yeah. Is it like, or I mean, does it give you a cliche message? Maybe, but it's a message that, right now during a pandemic time, I feel like that message translates, and a lot. But like, I guess my main gripe here is it took me a minute to get used to 22's voice, right? It is almost in some ways a carbon copy of Inside Out in some aspects for me. But those are my main gripes, and that's why it's a B for me. I'm sorry, I meant to mention that. Geeky?
I would have to say it is a B for me as well. I overall liked the movie. I liked the message it was giving. I liked its animation. But again, there's going to be some things that, I not enjoyed. And I feel like what overall it gave was enough. And I like to see our African American characters and Black characters be given, a voice and be part of the animation community. And I feel like it was nice to see that. And they really brought our culture out there, especially like in different scenes. And I really connected with that. So I like seeing it. But, again, it could have been some things thrown there to maybe spice it up, maybe a little different something. But hey, we got what we got, and I feel like it's still a good movie overall. People will enjoy it. It's heartfelt and it's good for kids. So that's a win. So
Okay, and I did forget because we were going to touch on this little issue real quick when we talk about, representation in films for characters like us, that look like us. A lot of times they're turning us into frogs or, some other characters. And we did get that in this movie. I felt like for this film, I felt like, Princess and the Frog, it was a whole new take and she's a frog. Like,
yeah,
to
that's
me,
not really.
that was just like, that was, I was a little annoyed by that. Okay. Just when we get to, that film. But to me, it does happen here. It is slightly annoying, but I felt like overall we got more of Joe on screen, even if it might have been 22 inside that body. I felt like, yeah, they did turn him and show him in the soul realm, but for me, it made sense for this movie that
Yeah.
we did get a lot of more Joe representation of this African American, this black character on screen than we have before. They do like to turn us into stuff. I'm not going to lie. And sometimes it's quite annoying, but for this story, it didn't bother me as much.
Yeah.
Nikki, what did you think here?
I like seeing it. I like seeing this on the screen. Again, I want to see more of it in other films, but I feel like for this, they did a better job. And I feel like it worked with the story that I was going through, like you said. And I feel like they did a lot better than what we're used to getting. And we should only
Yeah.
be asking for more and getting more. So hopefully it'll come,
Well said, Geeky, right? We need more of us on screen in the film. And maybe we need to get out here and do our own work and promote ourselves and make our own films, right? But like I said, for us, Soul is a B. Yay for Soul, right? Good score, good solid score. That's a B. Like I said, it's a good movie. Like I said, if you still have time and you're with your family or extended family and you're looking for something to watch over the weekend, check out Soul on Disney Plus, starring Jamie Foxx and Tina Fey, and let us know what you think. Comment down below. Did you like it? Was it not for you? How do you feel about Soul? How do you feel about Disney Plus? Do you feel like Disney Plus is getting on the right track with this content? Let us know how you feel. And you know what? I'm your girl, Ashley, aka The Widow.
This is Naturally Geeky for The Widow.
And you can check out Naturally Geeky on her own channel, Naturally Geeky. The link will be in the description box down below. And you know what? I'm your girl, Ashley, and we're two of Jody's Angels. And you know what? We're out. Bye.